Good evening. My name is Eugene Peterson, and I'm chair of the Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission. The Anne Arundel County Human Relations Commission, prior to the election in 2020, was a commission that was appointed by the county executive. In 2020, the commission was voted on by the public and installed in our charter. So we are not dependent upon county executive appointment, and we are recognized as a functioning body in the charter. We have statutory responsibility for investigating alleged housing discrimination claims. We have forms on our website in both English and Spanish that people can use to lodge any alleged claims of housing discrimination. But the commission has a larger responsibility to live up to the idea that we are an inclusive county, that we respect and we encourage diversity, and that as both the county executive and the county council have said, we want Anne Arundel County to be the best place for all. At this point in time, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:05, and I don't see Madam Secretary on. Let me check. No, she's not. She did not send me an email saying that she would not be on. So I will take I will take the role. Commissioner Indu Bodala.
Here.
Okay, great. Commissioner Guliat Ayeva. Did I get that right, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, present, okay. Commissioner Jaden Farris.
Here.
Commissioner Mary Day Doney may join us later, but right now she has an excuse because she talked to me about it. Activity she's involved with the county NAACP that would make her late for the meeting. So she's excused. Commissioner Mark Apter. Commissioner Sorrow.
Evening, present.
Commissioner Denton. Commissioner Michaels.
Present.
Commissioner Farinas. Commissioner Gaskin. And Commissioner Peterson is here. So I believe that we have a quorum. I think we have, let's see. Yeah, we have 6 members. We have a quorum, so we can conduct business. You all have received the minutes, so we'll move to approval of the minutes from the August 17th meeting. I believe you all have had time to look at them. If not, would you like a little bit more time to review them? Okay. I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes with any technical corrections that you would forward to Commissioner Hatcher to revise the minutes, and then I'd ask her to send them out again, or I would send them out again in the corrected form. And I believe Commissioner Aiva, you had a specific correction that you wanted included.
It was about the keeping visually impaired community members. I asked it in special scenes. I remember last time. It was just a brief note.
Okay, well, could you be so kind as to send another note to and reference where it is in the minutes that you'd like that comment included, and to Secretary Hatcher, and then we can have that correction made. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion to accept the August 17th minutes?
August or October?
I mean, whoops, October rather. I'm sorry.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes have been accepted. Okay, we'll move on in the order of business. And the next item for our consideration is report on contact with Maryland District 44 State Senator Charles E. Sidnor III. And the topic is wiretapping and electronic surveillance, fair housing testing legislation. Let me give a little background to this item. As some of you may recall, some of you were not on the commission at the time, we had a social justice film that we premiered that was widely received, that looked at the issue of fair housing testing 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act in Congress. And the film was done in New York. New York has a one-party consent law that allows for this to happen. And what the film, I believe, showed was how realtors don't formally discriminate, but they do such things as steering and making comments about neighborhoods that basically is a form of de facto discrimination, saying some communities are better for whatever reason than others. And being more excited about particular buyers or renters moving to a specific community rather than looking at all the communities in general and the diversity that exists in this particular area of New York. So if we were able to pass Senator Sidnor's legislation, we in Maryland would be able to do this, because in Maryland right now, we have one of the most restrictive wiretapping laws in the United States, for good reason, to protect the civil rights of others, but it doesn't allow for this carve out in this specific area to happen. So having said all that, I'm pleased to report that while I did not have a telephone conversation with Senator Sidnor, I was able to reach him by email. He plans to introduce the legislation again in this legislative session, and he asked for our support, and he also asked if we would be willing to testify, and I said on both accounts, yes. I think, and I'll open this up for discussion in a minute. I think that there is work to do that we can do, productive work, as a Human Relations Commission. One of the things that we could do would be to ask Senator Sidnor for a draft of the proposed legislation, and then ask other human relations commissions in the state to join us in supporting this wiretapping and electronic surveillance legislation that would allow for fair housing testing. More directly, in the last session, not a single delegate or senator from our delegation was a co-signer on Senator Sidnor's legislation. So that would be something, and we've talked about this before, working with the county executive, who I believe, and Director Smith can back me up on this, is in favor of such a legislation, that we could ask for the county executive's help, and I could also, and we as a commission could also contact our delegation and see if the delegation might come on board of this particular legislation, and ask them to reach out to colleagues in other jurisdictions. That's a lot to do. The session starts in January, so if we're going to do this, I believe that it's important that we commit to moving forward in this manner tonight. So having said all that, I'd open this up for discussion from other commissioners. Anybody have anything to say? So I take it as,
Peterson, I just want to make sure that your direct ask is that for the group to express an interest in supporting the legislation, maybe writing some sort of a letter and sharing it with the other
yes,
commissions locally to get some traction around the state.
that's correct. That is
Okay.
correct.
Just wanted to make sure. Okay, great.
Yeah, that is what we would do. I would work with anyone who would be interested in working with me to draft that kind of letter. Commissioner Sorrow.
I would be happy to work with you on that, Commissioner. Peterson, we wrote testimony last year in favor of this legislation, and I watched carefully the hearing. It did not make it out of committee last year, but I think that there is much in the way of education that could be done that may help to ensure that the bill receives a better reception next time. And I do agree with you. I think it makes a lot of sense to ask other human relations commissions across the entire state, to the extent
Yes.
we have relationships with them, to join in our support. I think that that Ms. Smith and I have mentioned previously that we are engaged in some fair housing testing in Anne Arundel County right now. So it does make a difference to Anne Arundel County that we be able to effectively have testing going on here in the county. So I'm all in favor of it, would be happy to work with you, draft whatever letter we want to send out, or edit one that you might prepare, and then potentially work with Senator Sidnor if you would, if you'd
Right.
like that, or if he would like the help with it.
I think his email indicated he wanted that kind of help. So what I would ask, if you would send me the testimony that you all did last year, and with our support of our essential housing legislation here, I think I'd begin to draft a letter. I'll send it to you and anyone else that's interested. I see Commissioner Michaels. So Commissioner Michaels.
Yes, there we go. Sorry, had the mute on. Well, actually, Lisa started to mention this, and I was interested both from Asha and or Commissioner Sorrow, Commissioner Smith. I was interested in because Commissioner Sorrow and Asha works with like the Renters United, Jews United for Justice. There's many organizations. Is there any overlap that we can weave it into other legislation, or does it have to sort of keep separate? I'm not very knowledgeable about that. And then the other question I had was that if this letter is written, our organization that I'm a part of, we are going to have upcoming legislative pre-meetings in the affordable housing space that we are going to attend with other organizations, sort of like MEPN. MEPN is the Maryland Episcopal Housing Authority out of Baltimore, that because our organization sort of loosely falls under that umbrella. Well, here, if I have this letter that we are trying to get support or are supported by other HRCs in the state, then they might also get behind it. But I don't, I'm going to watch the film and I'm going to try to educate myself. But I'm just saying that there's Commissioner Sorrow and Commissioner Smith know this. If they give me the language, then I learn it and then I can go and talk about it, right? But I have to educate myself a lot more. But I can think of right now just a short list, 4 organizations that we could get sort of behind the situation, just like whenever Commissioner Smith talked about the rally, and then all those people showed up for the housing rally. So stuff like that.
Okay.
I'd like to also enter. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, you had asked me to be in touch with Senator Sidnor, about 3-4 weeks ago, and I endeavored to do that. And I guess he runs a very when there's not in session, you get recordings from his office saying we're not in session, and send us an email, and there isn't anybody to talk to.
Right.
So I did
get a hold of his office.
Good. I didn't. And then so I reached out after I sent him a letter or an email, and as well as the phone. I reached out to Senator Elfreth, asking for her help in getting through to him or getting through to his legislative aide or whoever. And, we didn't directly talk about it, but I got the impression that she was very much in favor of this legislation, and she would, vote in favor of it, if not co-sponsor it. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things that I think are very important to get other senators and other members of the House on board, as well as third-party organizations that are sympathetic to the cause.
Agreed. Okay, what I'm going to propose is that, and I see that the testimony, thank you, Commissioner Ferris, for dropping Commissioner Sorrow's testimony into the chat box. I will start working with Commissioner Sorrow. I'll develop a list of human relations commissions, organizations in the state. And there may already be a list of all of them, but I think it's important that we get some of the big players like Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Baltimore City, Baltimore County involved in this, and that I think would help. And Director Smith, I think we still would like to urge the county executive, maybe through Mr. Barron, to get a hold of our delegation and see if we can get commitments to support this legislation. Because my understanding is the county executive supports this. Is that correct?
He does, yep.
All right, well.
But you should know that Mr. Barron is, I'm not telling secrets out of school. Mr. Barron is moving to Paris. And he is going to be leaving us soon. So he's really trying to wrap up a lot of loose ends. I don't know about his attendance at a meeting, but maybe there are some alternatives to him attending that would also help.
We have a chief of staff, right? So I think all would drop into his court on this. I would humbly ask that you see if they can figure out how they want to address this in a pretty quick fashion, because here we are, it's the 16th of November, December comes, and then the session is on. Yep. So we have to get moving on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
Could I jump in also and just ask again, Commissioner Sorrow, what about the appropriate to also either ask for support or reach out to, or not, again, you would know better, the housing coalition, Anne Arundel County Housing Coalition with Miranda. They do so much legislative work. Is that a good fit, or is that the opposite because of all of the builders, developers, lobbyists? Like, is that counterintuitive to asking for them to support something? I don't know.
Well, right. Well, what I will tell you is that the only opposition to the bill last year that I recall was the Maryland multi-housing MMHA, Maryland multi-housing,
the multi-housing one, right?
Yeah, the landlords opposed it, and so I don't recall them as potentially being a good ally on this. Maybe they would have a change of mind. The Maryland Affordable Housing Coalition, I don't know. They did not, to my recollection, take a stand on this last year, but the Multifamily Housing Association came out against it.
Right. And the reason I
have already requested that the tenant advocacy groups support this. I don't think they've got a number of priorities that they are really focusing their time on. But I suspect that they would provide written testimony. The members of that group would provide written testimony, so I can reach out to some of those organizations as well.
Right. And the only final thing I'll say on that, the only reason I suggested the Anne Arundel or the Maryland Housing, Affordable Housing, MAHC, Maryland Affordable Housing Coalition, because the Secretary of Housing, Jake Day, was there, Cliff Martin was there, Stuart Pittman was there. So these are all the people, and you're saying Stuart Pittman is behind this. So sounds like all the people that we need to really push this over the, the goalpost kind of thing like that. I don't know, but yeah, just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. I
Chairman
will.
Peterson, I did want to just bring one thing to your attention. The county is a member of MARA, which is the Maryland Association of Human Rights Agencies. And so if you have something that you want to get to the other agencies rather quickly, once the letter is complete, I'm happy to share it with the MARA listserv
Great.
on the commission's behalf.
Fantastic. That's the way I think we will go. Thank you. So what my next, I've laid out some steps that getting with taking the testimony from Commissioner Sorrow and drafting a letter, but I will also get back to Senator Sidnor, who has formally asked us through his email response to me, because I asked him if he would come in and talk to the commission tonight, and he could not make the meeting, but he asked if we would provide testimony and support the legislation, because he plans to introduce it again this session. So I will get back to him and make sure that he's introducing the legislation again this session, and ask if we could get some draft a draft copy, or if it's the same legislation that he proposed in the last session, then he could let me know and we could start from there. So that is the activity that we will be involved in on this issue. Any other further comments, questions? Okay, hearing none. We have on the agenda Councilwoman Rodbeam, who will join us at 6:45, around 6:45, to talk about the essential housing legislation and her views on it, and her views on some of the proposed amendments that have already been made, and any additional amendments she would propose, and whether or not we'll be able to see something passed in this by this council this coming this session. But what I'd like to do now is move around on the agenda and have a report from any of the commissioners. Unfortunately, I could not make the site visit, but folks who went to the site visit and where we go from here on the Unity Day program. So any commissioners want to talk about the site visit that went? Is there anybody on the call?
Yeah, so David and I both went out, and Chanel and Colleen also came and met with us there. It is a beautiful park, has a beautiful pavilion. Our concerns were sort of multiple. One, there's no lighting. So it would be very dark. We'd have to bring our own lighting out there. The parking is somewhat limited. There's one porta-john out there. And so we would have to bring in likely restrooms. It seemed like it would be a great location if we were to do something in the South County that would be sort of a less formal, maybe something in the summer. We talked about July 4th, potentially doing something down there, but for an event that will be in March when it's going to get dark early, with potentially a larger crowd than that park could handle. We might want to look at some other options. And David, you may have more input to provide.
Yeah, and from just being there, which as Commissioner Shara said, it really was beautiful, nice, but the amount of logistics that Colleen would have to bring in, it was determined by us that were there that maybe a summer program to piggyback on the March program and to, again, to celebrate more unity down at that time in the summer would maybe be more beneficial. And so we did have some discussions of another location. Commissioner Sorrow, is it appropriate to talk about that?
Sure. If Chairman Peterson, you wanted to go into sort of other options, or if you wanted to reserve that for the planning committee, that's up to you.
The planning committee will discuss it, but it would be fine to air those at this point in time, since you all talked about it at the site meeting. And what was gosh, I'm trying to think of her name.
No.
I'm blocking on the county. She used to work for the Parks Commission and
Colleen Joseph.
Colleen, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Colleen, she was with you.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you might give us an idea of what her views were as you guys talked.
So I think she shared our concerns about having the event down there. The logistics would be very complicated, I think, for her and for the people that would be helping her. We sort of leaned back toward People's Park. She is reserving that People's Park for that evening, just so that it's available if we make a decision that might work. Just for multiple reasons. One, it's centrally located. We could potentially close the road there, at least part of it, so there would be room for the food trucks to come. Transportation would be easier for getting the students there. And it could be more of a festival sort of an event. So we discussed that. We talked a little bit about the only other two places that have like lighted pavilions and electricity and that are staffed, being Quiet Waters and Downs. I think Downs is the other one.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and so we talked about those also, but perhaps for this year, just to get as many folks there as easily as possible, for the people that might be attending, we were thinking People's Park. No decisions obviously were made.
Right.
Was there any discussion? Was there any discussion of doing it on a weekend, or is that impractical? Weekend during the day.
So there wasn't any discussion about doing the weekend during the day. I think because if I'm correct, we were reaching out to the schools, and a lot of times sports teams that the kids are involved in travel. This is just my opinion. There's basketball games, there's soccer games, there's field hockey games, there's lacrosse games, and everybody is going in 10 directions. Whereas we have more of a captive audience. So I'm just talking from a logistical standpoint. The lean was that we could turn People's Park into a turnkey so that this committee could really focus on getting the word out and bringing more people to the Unity Day, and let the logistics up to Colleen, where she already has in place all the things that she needs, plus parking There was limited parking at this park also, and we have so many parking garages and ease of walking. And so we wanted to maybe volley the ball back over the net and say, okay, Colleen, handle, the committee wishes to have you handle all the logistics, and let us focus on getting more schools involved and the social, I guess you could say, the social marketing aspect of it. And food trucks will be more applicable to be able to be there, because then they can go do another job the same day after they finish this, because they like to back situations. So I'm leaning only because I understand Colleen's work so well, and I could see how together we could collaborate and make it a very successful day, only because the one part of logistics would be so well handled. And then we can focus on, and again, we pushed it to March because of all of these kinds of details that take time and energy to plan and put together and stuff. So I don't know, I took a sigh of relief whenever People's Park was brought up, because I could then see where our committee then could really focus on the actual subject matter of the unity and getting more people involved and getting schools, easier to get schools to transport to the main city, the parents bring them. I think Commissioner Sarr brought up the fact, the parents want their children involved, but then what are they going to do if they drop them off? Then they're going to, whereas out there, it's like you're there. Everybody's just sort of there and stuff. So.
Yeah, I might interject at this point in time that one of the reasons that we are focused on this March date and a week day is that when we started on our journey on Unity Day, it was from a request from the school district, Chesapeake, and I think Northeast High School, to address some of the concerns that they had about disunity and conflict that was going on in the schools. And so when we started to plan this year, we continued to focus on the school district Unity Day calendar. And the way we ended up in March was that I believe that's their final Unity Day celebration in the school district. And it would give us enough time to really do effective planning so that we could do the outreach to schools and students that we hope would be successful. So that is why we would be doing it during the week on that specific day in March and not on a weekend.
Right, and then the other thing that I again would just bring up, when we were planning it earlier this year, it was all about the amount of time. So here we are. So next week is Thanksgiving. We have, we've sort of decided on the date, but not the location. So that yet has to get a vote. We still have to move along. There's still planning involved. Now we're into the Christmas holiday period. Okay, so now we might as well just forget the rest of this year. So now let's go to January. Now we have January and February and 15 days in March to get everything ramped up, get all the schools on board, by the way, they're all on vacation too, until like the 7th of January. So now they'll be back. And so as a planning situation, we want as much time to give the schools so that they have plenty of time to get it into their schedules and ramp up the interest. And that's why I think it's good that we get the location settled, and so that we can focus on all the other stuff, because we have so many other holidays in there and travel and, family schedules are, the schedules of the commission, the schedules of the county, the schedules of the town. And the one other thing that I like personally is that Colleen mentioned about security. And it's, again, when you're in the city of Annapolis, she has way more turnkey situations available so that with everything that's going on in the world, which then you have to sort of think local, I just think that it makes sense for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make a comment about? We have 2
Yes.
minutes, right? We have 2 minutes. I will. So speaking of Unity Day and site visit, I went to meet the Muslim community and several of my Jewish friends in the community. They wanted me, the Muslim community wanted me just to give a message to our commission and commissioners that they can take to their community that, you know, the Muslims don't hate America, and Muslims do not hate Christians. We do not hate Jewish. We do not hate LGBT communities. We do not hate anybody based on their beliefs, based on their ways. You know, they just wanted me to say it here because news out there scaring people. They're biased news, unfortunately, not covering everything. We want American community, and the people know that Muslims do not hate any member, any human being. Just this needs to be on the record. So the community also wanted to know the second thing, that how are we going to fight the racism and a lot of anti-Semitic messages, children at school getting, spreading a lot of Islamophobic or anti-Muslim comments, youth making toward each other. Unfortunately, sometimes academic environment we can see it. So how we as a commissioners and our community, we could make our county the best way so we don't affect that. If we can make a statement and post it out there that no Facebook from here, that would be helpful, I think. But if you have any suggestion, I would be happy to take it with my community. But please let your community, let the people, let your family know that Muslims do not hate any kind of human being. We are all humans. It doesn't matter what is your face. It doesn't matter whether you believe or not. There's no reason to hate them.
Okay, let me go. I'll come back to your comments in a minute. I want to close out the discussion we had just a while earlier and say that we've gotten some good feedback on Unity Day, and we will have the next commission meeting, committee meeting, I think is December 5th. Is that correct? I think that's sent out to all commissioners. So if you want to be involved, show up on Zoom and we'll discuss and finalize, I think, because we've had some good feedback on what the date and location of the event will be. So I'll close that out. And then I want to thank, moving on to the comments that Commissioner Haiva gave us. They were very heartfelt. I think all of us support your beliefs that Muslims do not hate America. And I know that you would agree that Muslims roundly condemn Hamas for what they did. There's no right way that anybody could support the terrorist actions of that group. I think there's general consensus in both the Muslim, although it's not said loud in both communities, but in both the Muslim and the Jewish community, Hamas needs to go because of the terrible price that civilian Palestinians play in this push and pull and the continuing war that never seems to end. That's been going on.
5,000 children has been killed.
That's correct.
It's very deep. We do condemn all kinds of terrorist acts. No children, no human being, no matter what is the religion, should have targeted or anything. But the thing is, the media is putting the Muslim in America so much. It shows only one side of it, history, and the Muslims and the Jewish community. I send over the video. You all, I'm assuming, see it. I mean, there's no need to call out a person to tell that I will beat him because you're a Muslim. That is terrible. I would definitely defend any Muslim child, any Jewish child, or Muslim child, or Christian, or even atheist child, or LGBT community. It doesn't matter. It's a human being. My message is we don't hate. We only can say this. We don't hate America or Americans or any belief. We can't say out there because the media doesn't show us. I don't know for what reason, but I'm telling here, please know that if you see anything biased news information, just let your community know that I'm representing the Muslim and we are here. We will definitely be nice to benefit.
Okay, thank you. And is there any further action that you're recommending that the commission take?
I would love if we investigated all kinds of hate or comments that made. It doesn't matter towards Muslim, but there are our Jewish brothers and sisters too. It's just, I feel like every war, it's kind of political, but the price paid by the children. I'm a children right activist, and the schools are the worst place right now. Kids are attacking each other verbally, and it affects their mental health. I don't know if the county can send some kind of representative to speak with the school in this difficult time and kind of invite the unity and other, kind of give the speech there. That will be really helpful. But investigating all kind of hate crime, it will be really appreciated, whether it's in the schools or somewhere in our town.
Okay, thank you for your thoughtful comments, and we're taking them under advisement. Commissioner Matthews.
David?
Commissioner
Michaels, yeah. I didn't know if we had a new commissioner. I was like looking around. My only thought was, so Unity Day is even more important than ever. And so I'm putting the last plug in for People's Park here. So to send the proper message to me on what the commissioner Haya just said is that the capital of the state hosting the Unity Day this particular year might be really monumental and very important because it then spreads the word out to the state. It's bigger than who we are, and so that's sort of why I think this Unity might be more important than any others. But anyway, that's my opinion. Thank you for letting me share.
You're welcome. Is Chanel on the call? Chanel, are you still on the call?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay. Has Councilwoman Rodvine joined us yet?
Let me check. Yes, she's here.
Oh, she is here. Okay, good. Fantastic. At this point in time, I'd like to go back to our agenda, and the item that we will have will be discussion with County Council member Aliza Rodvine on the county essential housing legislation, proposed amendments, any other thoughts that she might have on the issue. So Councilwoman Rodvine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I'll just say thank you for inviting me. And I heard I logged in just a couple of minutes ago to hear the end of that conversation. And I just want to express my support for all individuals being treated as individuals and not judged by the actions of others that they likely disagree with. So I just wanted to put that in there. I think there's a lot of judging going on and a lot of ignorance of history and ignorance of what different groups and individuals are playing in the conflict. And I don't want to go further than that, except to say I know folks that have lost loved ones or whose loved ones are held hostage right now, that the pain runs deep, no matter what your belief system is, no matter where you come from. The pain is human, and the more we recognize that we are human, the better chance we have of reaching peace. But I know I'm here to talk about housing, which is, I think, another important aspect of peace, actually. When people have a safe place to go and to call their own, even if it's, we don't all need, the McMansions. We just want a safe place to lay down our heads in a warm bed, and a place to be safe with our families. And that's what this bill is really trying to create more of. In Anne Arundel County, we have a pretty acute shortage. And I imagine that that's something this group already is very well aware of, just by looking at the members of the group and the individuals that I see here, that I suspect folks here are, and in fact, I'm sure most of you that are here are much more knowledgeable about that shortage than I am. But I'm grateful to say I think we are going to end up with a good bill. There has been a lot of internal discussion amongst individual council members trying to find out where there might be, how we can find common ground where there are differences in terms of what the final bill should look like. But I think we are coming close to finding common ground. There will be a handful of amendments on Monday, but I think the real desire is to have Monday be the last round of amendments. Of course, you never know until we get, through, we never get through Monday, and then, get through the 2 weeks between the amendments and when the bill will come up for a final vote. But I think the most important things are going to stay intact. One of my biggest concerns is that there might be an attempt to turn the program into a voluntary program. And a voluntary program is actually what we already have. People are always welcome to create affordable housing. There is nothing stopping individuals from doing that now, or builders from doing that now. And we can see that, unfortunately, the market has not, provided what we need with just a voluntary program. So I think this is going to stay a mandatory program. There may be a little bit more in terms of making sure that developers, that builders are able to actually take advantage of the density bonuses, which are part of the bill as it is, but sometimes it can be difficult for those densities to be achieved. But I think the idea is to make sure that, we give paths to builders to achieve those densities, which from my understanding is one of the biggest ways that, that the math works, that is important to making sure that, we're obviously, well, I guess this varies from council member to council member, but I believe our biggest focus here is making sure that we get housing, but we do live in a free market society, and the groups building are ordinarily operating in a free market society and are used to certain levels of profit and return on their investments. And so to try and, balance those two things, I think is actually what is probably the way to describe the the remaining sort of discrepancies in opinions about where the bill should go forward. But I think we've found fair ways to make sure that builders can still, benefit from their business, but we also get the needed units that we need at the point in the market that is most where it's most critical, where we have the biggest shortages in terms of housing. So if anyone would like to ask questions, or if you want me to be more specific, I feel comfortable telling you about the amendments that I'm planning on bringing, but none of them are earth shattering.
Commissioner Michaels, just a minute. Where'd it go?
Good evening, Councilwoman Broadbeen. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Nice to see all of you.
My question is, I realize that this bill can only go so far. Has there been any discussion, amendments about either when buildings go for renovations, that then a percentage or some percentage falls under this bill? Or again, you said voluntary, so could they voluntarily put 10% back into affordable housing? And is there any discussion or grandfathering? I'm going to naturally use this new building that's going up on 50, which is massive. Is there any about, like, they already got their permits, they're already building to be open, but is there any possibility of going back into some of the new, actually there's two, that's one's on Riva Road, I think too, to have them put aside a percentage for workforce housing?
That has not been in discussion, at least not with ones that are in the process of building now. I actually believe there is a provision in the law, in the bill, that does require major renovations to include MPDUs, but honestly, that hasn't really been the focus.
Right.
The focus has really been going forward. I think that there could be legal difficulties with sort of applying the law retroactively to projects that are, so far along in the project, in the process. And actually, that's one of the things that's that is sort of a sticking point. There are things that different county agencies are going to have to they're going to have to set up different mechanisms that really don't exist right now in order to implement this program. And so there is sensitivity to make sure that they have time to get those mechanisms in place, to make sure that they, can provide the answers to the questions that builders rightfully need to know, but at the same time, not delaying the implementation so long that we lose even more opportunity that we already have. Right. So, I actually think there is a good compromise coming that will basically put the law into place pretty quickly, and that's what I'm pushing for. Right. That is unfortunately something there is not complete agreement on, so I'm hoping that we can get there. And it's really, I feel like things are really delicate right now because more than anything, we need a bill. We need a bill to pass. So, figuring out how firm a position to take when you fear it could jeopardize the entire bill because someone, decides they don't think something about it is fair and they're going to, going to come out against the bill because they feel like something in the bill is just unfair. Right. So that's kind of where it's at. But I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to get something that will put it into effect very quickly.
Right. And I am all for that. And I 100% agree with you. So this is just, again, educating myself on that process and knowing more so I can speak about it properly. And then the follow-up question is, so the bill will pass because that's what with the energy that we want to put into the universe, that the bill will pass. It will pass
Yes, I love it.
quickly, and it'll pass exactly the way that you believe it needs to pass. So then my follow-up question is, now that the bill is passed and they're building affordable workforce housing, will vouchers be able to be used, or is workforce housing above the cost of a voucher in the county?
So vouchers can absolutely be used. Just, from a legal point of view, that's already, it would be illegal to, you
That
know,
makes sense.
to deny someone based on their, source of income that's a voucher. In terms of where the price points fall, I don't know, but it certainly seems reasonable that they would. Honestly, I would need to look at that. I would need to look at very specific numbers that I don't have in front of me.
Sure.
That's actually a question that I might take back to ACDS and say, hey, how does this, how does this work? Especially with rentals.
Yeah.
It's actually, I don't know. This is a question someone here might know. Can vouchers be used, for to pay mortgage payments?
I don't
Does
know.
anyone happen to know that?
Not mortgage payments, no. A voucher cannot be used for mortgage payments. And there are some exceptions where a voucher might be used for like a long-term rent to own type of a situation. But those are really few and far between. And
Yeah.
because of the housing prices, particularly in our area, it's not something that is used very often, or even able to be used very often. But in terms of using a voucher at in an MPDU, the rent that has to be set for those units, I believe, would bring the price down within the fair market or small area fair market rents that would have to apply for somebody with a voucher. So, I mean, ideally, someone living in a unit that is affected by the MPDU, what we want the MPDUs to do would be able to afford that rent without the need of that additional voucher assistance. So folks in other units in those properties would be able to use that rent or use that voucher, depending on the rent standard at the property. But if things are working the way they're supposed to work, the people living in those units would not need a voucher. It would be affordable for them.
Okay. That's good to know. And I will actually dig a little bit more there, because that's a really good question that has not come up before.
Councilwoman Rodvine, could you talk about what amendments that you would like to see, and if there's been some discussion of other amendments? I know there was some discussion from Vice Chair Pickard in terms of how to make this reasonable for developers and make it work. So could you kind of run us through what some of that discussion looks like now?
Yeah, so I actually brought to the table to discussion, with my individual colleagues, about 8 amendments. And in the end, I'm probably only going to introduce 2 or 3 of them. And that's not because the other ones, were rejected. It was that they weren't things that needed to be in amendments. But the 2 that I will be bringing have to do with making sure that the MPDU units are appropriately advertised. My understanding is that in the city of Annapolis, there had been some sort of shenanigans that units were actually available but not advertised. And so we had folks, we had landlords or, property owners saying, oh, well, no one's interested in these units. And the fact was no one actually knew about them. So my amendments are going to make sure that if it's a unit for purchase, that it's listed it's like the multiple listing realtor service. And if it's a rental unit, that it's listed that it's advertised in the same way that any other rental unit in that, building, neighborhood, whatever is listed. The other amendments that I had planned to bring are things related to the size and the quality and the materials and the design aspects, to make sure that they were, not necessarily identical, because you could imagine, if you have a luxury building where the market rate units have marble countertops, that we're not necessarily expecting MPDUs to come with marble countertops, but something, visually as nice, and that, it doesn't feel like you're in a totally lower quality unit, that it comes with the same energy efficiency, that the size is comparable. Those things are, have been agreed to be addressed in the design guides for builders. So when they come forward, they will know that these are design requirements. They just won't be in the actual bill. It's sort of more like handing that part of it off to the regulatory piece of implementing the law. So that, I'm trying to think if there's other, I think those were the main ones.
Okay, and I guess another general concern that I have, and maybe the commission has, we supported in written testimony this legislation, and one of the reasons that we did was so that essential workers, firefighters, teachers, healthcare workers could have two things. One, perhaps a rental that they could start out with, that they could then begin to gain enough resources through savings and investments to basically then buy a home. And then finding that this would be affordable if one were to buy a home, it could make it affordable for a firefighter, a teacher, a healthcare worker. And so I guess my question to you is, when you look at those, I think the individual house affordability was about $82,000, a little over $82,000. And are you satisfied that we're meeting the mark there? Because we're supporting this, and I believe it's right, but I just wondered where your thinking is.
So this is has been a really tough issue. And in the end, the ACDS provided us a bunch of data about the housing available, or that's affordable for various income levels, and then the number of people in the county that need those units at various income levels. And the income levels that were most in need, where there was the biggest short of housing, is actually a little bit lower than a number of the professions. But of course, the professions, especially right now, the blueprint for Maryland's future is pushing teacher salaries higher, starting salaries for police officers, detention officers, firefighters is a little bit lower. So it's kind of hard to capture everyone in a single system. So I would say the rental market probably is a little better suited to catch the income levels with the biggest need, which is a little bit below, starting teacher salary, a little bit closer to starting police officer, firefighter, detention officer. I'm actually not sure where nurses fall in that category, but they're somewhere in there. And then the income cap for purchase is a little bit higher. So that it catches different income groups in different ways. So, it's in my ideal world, we would have like multiple tiers, but that was, just going to be administratively very difficult. So we had to pick, and I feel like we chose wisely to aim at the part of the market that is most in need. and that's where the units are going to, that's the income group where the units are going to be targeted. But even income is so variable because the maximum income for a unit is going to be calculated depending on the number of individuals in the household. So, all of a sudden there's a lot of variation in there. So we did the best we could to find the sweet spot. And I think there has been broad agreement on that. There has not been a lot of, pushing back and forth.
Okay, and I guess I'll just ask one other question. I'll leave to other commissioners, but
Yeah.
what kind of feedback are you generally getting from the development community? Because all politicians like to serve. And in order to serve, you got to raise money, and the development community in Anne Arundel County is very involved in that aspect of the politics. So I'm wondering, what are you hearing from them?
So I will actually tell you that my first interactions with the development community were so strongly against this bill at the very beginning. I almost just tuned them out because it felt like, well, we probably could, find some, we could find ways to make this work better. But when what you're telling us is this bill is not well researched, we don't have the data, and you're saying all of these reasons why the bill is going to fail and we shouldn't do it, it kind of, to me, set up well, you're not even willing to have a conversation. So I took that out, and I'm if I run for office again, it will still be with, I'm trying to think, if I took any developer money, I didn't know I did. And it certainly wasn't any significant amount, and that will be true going forward. I think if I run again, there's a very good chance that I will use the new public campaign finance system, because I think that is a great way to make sure that decisions, are not overly influenced by developers. I do have colleagues that have been in more conversation with developers, and I think there are some good things about it. I think, we do need to make sure that it's workable. We don't want to make things that are complete obstacles, because we want this to happen. We want them to build, but it's finding that point where, and actually there's been some really helpful folks that have been involved in, in development, but are not, directly involved in, they're not necessarily the ones working for the developers or the builders. Maybe they've, kind of seen how the numbers work out from the finance side, or they've worked in the affordable housing industry, and they know how the numbers can and can't work, and what really is real concerns about the bill, and what is, just trying to make sure that they don't lose too much of their profit margin. So again, it's trying to find that sweet spot, and the sweet spot where all the council folk agree. As long as we have folks willing to build, I feel like that's good. That's what we need.
Well said. Any further comment from other commissioners?
I just have one other question, Councilmember Rodvine. So I've been to a bunch of county council meetings. A lot of times the votes are down party lines, I guess, if you want to say it that way. But does this, whenever President Smith spoke at the rally, his thoughts are it's going to be an all for one kind of thing, that you're going to look at all the amendments, you're going to look at, all the details and the research and whatnot. But it would really be great if the whole council can make this vote, because then it sends a message. And does that look promising that it's going to pass unanimously after? No, it's going to be. Okay.
I suspect this is going to be a 4-3 vote. Yeah. And hopefully it'll be the 4-3 vote that allows it to pass.
Right.
And actually there were some, if you watched the meeting this past week, there were some very interesting votes that you might have thought, well, gosh, I wouldn't have expected the Republicans to support that, while some of the Democrats didn't. And I actually think there was some game playing there in trying to split off, some of the more middle of the road Democrats to allow the bill, like some of the amendments that I had, I didn't expect to pass. and they passed with Republican votes. So that almost concerns me because it makes me think they're trying to create a bill that the moderate Democrats will not vote for in the end. So I feel like that's
Wow.
I'm just being very honest.
Wow, that's
And
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah. Lisa.
Oh, yeah.
I just very quickly wanted to say you are my council person, and so I wanted to thank you for your advocacy on this and for coming to speak with us tonight to tell us, what's going on, where the sausage is being made or how it's being made. I really appreciate the background and the information that you provided tonight, and thank you for all you do for our little district.
Absolutely. And I'm looking at the screen here, and I see a lot of folks that are District 6. And if you're not, I know you spend time in District 6. So I feel happy to represent you, even if you don't live here, but I know a lot of you do. So thank you for your kind words.
Yes, and I would also like to echo the comments of Commissioner Sorrow and say how thankful we as a commission are that you took time out of a very busy schedule that you have to come and talk with us and about this legislation and make us more understanding of the importance of this kind of legislation. And we will again provide written testimony. And I was unable to make the meeting to testify in person, but at the meeting when the gavel comes down, which will be after the amendments are done, we will be there. And I'm hoping there will be more than just myself, but we will give testimony from our perspective. And finally, I'd just like to say that I am encouraged that the council is looking at the proposition that they don't want to make perfect the enemy of the good. So that's a good thing to hear from you, Councilwoman Rybing. So thank you very much. And we appreciate all of your hard work on this important issue.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for, helping to rally the support. That crowd on Monday night, that kind of crowd makes a difference. It tells the council that people are watching and people are listening. And I know that ACT is also rallying people to come this coming Monday and and likely December as well. So, we appreciate the support and the turnout, and it helps us do our job when it is clear to everyone that we are well supported in what we're advocating for. So thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Again, thank you, Councilwoman, and for all you do and for all the good work that you've done. Thank you.
100%
Okay.
my privilege.
All right. Want to go move on to Director Smith's report at this point in time?
My report this evening is going to be very brief. As many of you know, I've been under the weather, so I just want to hit some highlights for you. The first is that the association that I was talking to you guys about, the Maryland Association of Human Rights Agencies, is going to be having an event in early December to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the passing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This year is the 75th anniversary, and so they have asked all of the member counties to have folks participate in recording and reading some of the articles. We have 4 articles that we've been asked to help with, and so we'll be disseminating them. I think it's only fitting, provided that you're agreed, that Chairman Peterson or someone else from the commission record one of those articles. So I'll be sharing that with the group. In addition, the proposed event, the planned event, sounds like it should be really interesting, particularly in light of some of the discussion that's been had this evening. The theme bear with me 1 second. I want to make sure I get that right for you guys. The theme for the event, for the 75th anniversary, this is designated by the UN, is dignity, freedom, and justice for all. So that's what the UN has identified as the theme for this year. The event for Mara is going to be human rights in crisis, dignity, freedom, and justice for all. And they're looking to have some, discussion about some of the human rights issues that we're seeing around the world, not limited to the decrease in women's reproductive freedoms and the conflict that we're now seeing in the Middle East. So we're hopeful that everyone will be able to attend. It's going to be a virtual event. And I think it's scheduled, I'll send you an invitation, but I think it's scheduled for December the 8th. It'll be 1.5 hours, and that will be during the work day. So I think it's from like 1 to 2:30. It's supposed to be sort of a late lunch and learn type event. So I'll be providing some more information about that. I want to thank you guys for the site visit that you did for Unity Day. I feel comfortable now saying, I'm permitted now to say that we do have a grant for addressing hate bias incidents that we're administering in collaboration with the police. And by we, I mean the county executive's office, not the Human Relations Commission directly, but it is a $1.2 million grant for the purpose of reducing and responding to hate bias incidents and crimes. And so we envision this Unity Day event as one of the ways that we are going to be engaging in that activity. We have lots of work to do, standing up the grant and doing some other things, but it's envisioned that this commission is going to be an integral part of that work moving forward. And the resources to do it, it's just, it feels like a miracle, but we're really excited to have that. That funding has come from the Department of Justice. And so we're very excited about that. I don't really have much else that I need to share with you in this meeting. Everything else that we need to do, we can do online. Chanel and I are going to be looking at some additional park sites in the southern part of the county tomorrow, just to make sure that there's nothing down there that we want to consider. And we'll get back to you guys about that. And that's where we are.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'm sorry, one more thing. Hate bias incidents. I will have a complete report to the commission, just to let you know where we are since the last meeting. I know there's been some particular interest about Islamophobia and anti-Semitism. We have recorded 3 hate bias incidents through the police. Of course, that's how we get our reporting. We've had 3 incidents probably in the last 30 days. Frankly, it's not a huge uptick. I expected those numbers potentially to be a little bit worse. Some of these numbers generally aren't always awesome, right? And so we have an eye on that. Senator Van Hollen's office did reach out to us to find out if we were sort of monitoring the situation. There was one incident that occurred in a school environment that involved depictions of swastikas on a Zoom call. And so that was brought to Senator Van Hollen's attention. And of course, it's being investigated by the police. So, we have our fingers firmly on the pulse of what's going on. And we'll be reporting to this commission as things arise.
And that was in an Anne Arundel County public school?
I can say that it was, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I will also say that it's happened before where people get a hold of technology. And I think some of those issues have even come to this commission. People get a hold of technology and are able to hijack meetings and do really sinister things. And sometimes the police are able to identify, who's done it. Sometimes they can't, despite their best efforts, but, our hope is that they'll be able to resolve it.
Is there anything we could contribute to help?
One more time, I'm having difficulty hearing out of my left ear.
No problem. Is there anything we could do to help you or to help?
I think that the commission, as you receive this data, I think that that's for the commission to decide, and my office is always available to support and to assist. I do think that with the use of the availability of this funding, there are always interventions that the commission can be looking at supporting. There's always education, awareness. Basically, the things that fulfill the commission's mission are always going to go a far way in affecting and changing positively the climate in the county.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Director Smith, and we do wish you a speedy recovery.
Thank you. I'm on the mend. Thanks so much.
Very good, very good. We don't have a report on from our Annapolis Human Relations Commission liaison, Commissioner Hatcher. She did attend a meeting, meet and greet, and hopefully at our next meeting she will give us feedback on that meeting. We have no new business. We have no good and welfare unless there are any announcements that individual commissioners want to make. Yes.
I'm
Director.
sorry, I have one more quick one. In response to Commissioner Hajieva's inquiry from last meeting about parks and inclusive parks for children with disabilities, our division, our Department of Recreation and Parks has asked for a little bit more information because there are accessible parks, right? The parks that are accessible to people with disabilities. And then there's another standard for inclusive parks. And I think that to the extent that you are able to refine the question, it would help them to identify some of the facilities that are appropriate for kids with different needs. So if there is a good working definition that you'd like to use for inclusive parks versus accessible parks, and if you can share that with me, I think it'll help them.
Right. I would again have to go back to the youth wisdom, resilient community, and to ask them what is it that they would like to, and then I can report it.
Okay. All right. And you can send that to me.
Discuss with them again, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Are there any items for good and welfare that the commission, any individual commissioner has? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to make a proposal. Our December meeting is December 21st. My feeling is that's in the middle of the Christmas holiday. And unless there is a general consensus that we desperately need to have that meeting on the 21st, I'd like to have it canceled and start up our meetings in January. So is there a motion to do that? Oh, Commissioner Sorrow, I'm sorry.
I actually will make that motion for you, Commissioner Peterson or Chair Peterson, but I did want to point out that that is also the longest night. So there will be a longest night memorial that evening, early evening. Anyway, I believe it's going to be at People's Park also to memorialize those of our neighbors that have lost their lives while experiencing homelessness or after having experienced homelessness. So that event will be occurring that night anyway. And so I think that it would be it would be wonderful to have members there, or otherwise to, yes, not necessarily have our meeting on that night. So with that being said, I move that we cancel the Human Relations meeting for December 21st and start up again in the new year.
Is there a second to that motion?
I will second it.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion has passed, so we will not have a December 21st meeting. At this point in time,
I tried to say something, but
oh, I'm sorry.
I wasn't
Yes, sir.
illuminated. I'd like to have our January meeting earlier than it would normally be, so that we have our meeting before the legislature begins its session.
Okay, general discussion, commission members.
I would like to say that I like that idea because unless we do some online communications via email about the Unity Day on March 15th and securing, deciding sometime before the January commission meeting, then having that earlier meeting because of the legislative session and just giving us more time for Unity Day, I think is a great idea.
Okay, further discussion?
My only discussion would be to, to have, if the group wants to do that, is to have you pick a day, Chairman Peterson,
Okay.
to do that in the first couple of weeks of January.
Okay. Would it be useful that day be as we normally meet on a Thursday, or does it make any difference?
I don't think it makes any difference, but
All right, I will go ahead and if there's general consensus, I'm thinking we don't need a motion unless there's some debate about this. Is there general consensus from the commission that I should go ahead and put out a couple of dates, 2 or 3 dates in the probably the second week in January, and then see where the majority of commissioners can meet, and then go with that. So it would be in the second week of January.
okay.
All right.
Make it so.
Anybody? Okay. All right. I will do that. Okay. I now ask for a motion to adjourn. We conducted our business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the HRC commission meeting.
I second it.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. All in favor?
Wait. And after second. Okay. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? This is a non-debatable motion, so unanimously we have adjourned. Want to thank you, all the commissioners and anybody else who tuned in. We had a very productive meeting, and look forward to good things happening in the new year. And with that, I will say good night.
Good night.
Happy holidays to everybody, and drive safely and be safe and healthy.
All right.
Great. Thanks.
you. Same
Good
to
night,
you guys.
everyone.
Have a great.